Welcome to another episode of Co-Founders. This is Alex Montrose and
Lisa Montrose.
And today we have today we have amazing guests with us. We have Lindsay and Shea. I'm going to go ahead and allow them to introduce yourselves, give us a little bit of background of what you do, where you came from, and a little bit about who you are.
Thank you. We're with Into Publishing. We own a few franchises under that umbrella. So I run Points Living magazine, which goes to the Medina, Hunts Point, Yarrow Point, and Clyde Hill communities here in Bellevue, and Mukilteo Monthly, which is up in the Mukilteo community. And Shea?
I run Seattle Real Producers, which goes to the top 500 real estate agents in King and Snohomish County.
Very cool. And in full disclosure, I mean, we're actually, thanks for having us part of your publication.
Yeah.
Well, you guys do a great job, and we appreciate, showcasing our business as well. So thanks for coming today. We know you're busy. I know, it's never easy for anybody running a business or company to kind of step away, right, and then take the time like you're doing today. So Thank you. So for, tell us a little bit about the family, your family dynamic. You're married, kids. What does that look like today?
Well, we have a few daughters, and we have a big gap. So we have one that's going to be a freshman in high school,
wow.
which will be a big change for us. And then our little one is going to go into first grade.
Nice.
And then extra bonus, we have a very old dog, and we have a puppy. So we really have it all sides of the spectrum covered. But from a family dynamic, obviously our girls are, they're our hearts, and we do anything we can to make sure that they're happy, and obviously balancing that with running, multiple publications is not easy, but especially in the summer, keeping them happy. But we feel like we do a pretty good job of finding that balance.
Yeah. What does your oldest do any sports or, extracurricular activities or anything of that nature?
Nothing we have to run her around to a whole lot. The Rucker side of our relationship tends to be clumsy.
Okay.
So she's inherited that lovely gene. No, but she's really artistic, so graphic design and drawing and anything with the left side. She's very smart too, but she's very left-brained, and so she's very interested in things like that. Probably a graphic designer or some sort of concept artist for a gaming company is where she wants to go.
Really?
Long term.
Or a publication.
I know.
She actually designed one of my logos.
Oh, really?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's good. Yeah. What with your first grade, you said?
Yeah.
So is your first grader along the same lines as she, like the oldest, or how different
I would
are they?
say it's hard to tell. They're definitely different, personality wise, but there's a big gap in age. I would say the hardest part with kind of the balance of having an older one and a younger one is the whole issue of screen time.
Oh, yeah.
And like what is good and what is not. And the harder part with our older daughter is that her screen time a lot of times is she's doing what she loves, which is drawing.
Yeah.
And so then, of course, the little one sees that and, thinks that the screen time is okay, but obviously she's not doing anything productive. So finding that balance of what is allowable screen time and what is just mindless, and you could be reading, you could be drawing. Our younger one is definitely artistic, and I have a background in coaching, so I coached her indoor soccer team, and that was pretty hilarious because it's like herding cats. It's like a kind of soccer,
That's awesome.
But it's not your, I'm not ever gonna like force her to do anything athletic. But if she wants to do it, great.
Right.
But figuring out their personalities and the similarities and differences is interesting.
Yeah.
So
it's you bring up a good point. The whole screen time. What do you mean? We live in that.
It's a battle.
As we've told you guys, prior. We have 5 kids, right? So, our 3 to 5 year old, they think they're 16.
yeah.
I think what happens is they all think they're the same age as the oldest one. So if they see the oldest one getting any sort of privileges, they think that they also should get those, regardless of their age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they just sort of think that, oh, that sets the precedence. But they didn't see what happened when the oldest was 3. So, but everybody sort of gravitates towards that. And we, unfortunately, as parents also sometimes do that. Like, I'm pretty sure our 5-year-old thinks she's 17. And we've done nothing to convince her otherwise.
I know. Yeah.
We're like, oh, yeah, of course you should stay up till 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, of course you should. Right. Because it's summer. I mean, and it makes no difference in her world.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think we all sort of do that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
To some extent. What has been, so you know, you're busy with running the publications. Tell us a little bit about, like, how are you dealing with the work-life balance?
I actually want to ask, because I don't know this and I'm curious.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been married?
Well, we've been married for almost 3 years and about a week.
Oh, wow.
Next week will be, is that right?
Yeah.
Couple weeks, but
I don't know what the
okay.
date
Couple
is.
weeks. It's
Congratulations.
But
Cool.
but we've been together for 12 years, so we just took our time. It was a second marriage for me, first marriage for him. I needed time to repair from my first marriage. He just needed time. Screening period, we call it. So
It's a long screening
man.
period.
But now you should know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I figured it out.
You figured it out. Good.
And then how long have you been running business together?
Well, I started with the company first in 2013 and started there building up. The Mukilteo magazine was our first one, and he kind of joined in on the back end pretty early on. Stuff that people wouldn't see, but he was there. And then in the last, I'd say, year and a half, 2 years, he's been more heavily involved. And in the last year, he took over the Seattle Roll Producers, which is when we really jumped in full-blown force, running all 3 together.
So I had been in sales, you know, before we met, and when she was approached about the opportunity to join N2 and ramp up a magazine, she had never been in sales before, and so I was on the back end, but I was also kind of like a life coach, a business coach. Like, you know, I can tell you things that you're going to go through, but it's not going to really mean anything until you're actually going through it. So we did a good job of balancing each other out and allowing her to kind of go through the ups and downs of, you know, what it means to run your own business and be in sales and be a mom at the same time. So I really tried to pick up as much slack as I could, kind of on the back end, like she said, kind of the behind the scenes stuff, whether that's client relations or, you know, spreadsheets or doing laundry or making dinner, whatever that, you know, I tried to make sure that I was supporting her in whatever way I could.
You know, you bring up a good point of, I would say, wisdom in the sense of, it's interesting, and I was just thinking through, like, how do we, the expectations of our kids, right? You mentioned something about business. You only going to know until you start going through it. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I don't think, sometimes as parents, I think, you know, we want our kids to hear our advice, but we know what they're going to do. They have to go through it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's the same advice for business. And even, you know, Lisa and I were talking in our last episode of, like, you know, did we truly count the cost of going into business first? And we did, but you don't know what you don't know until you actually go into it. Yeah. And it's applicable to both how you raise your kids and how you're going to raise your business at the same time.
There are a lot of similarities.
Oh, for sure.
There are, and we call Moncourt our accidental baby. I mean, it's a baby. It is, and it's a baby, and we even, when we talk about the stage of where we're at, we're like, oh, we hit the toddler stage, or we hit the middle school stage, or, you know, I mean, that's how we talk about it, because it really is. It's a maturing. Yeah. And you have to, I mean, we're parents to this baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and you do have to raise it similar to how you raise kids.
You do, and nobody will care for it like you do.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They won't.
That's the one, I think. Do you have any employees right now, apart from you two?
All of them are W-9.
Okay.
Employee, like,
so independent contractors?
Subcontractors,
Okay.
So writers, and we share an assistant.
Ad manager.
Yeah, Carl does our ad management.
Carl, okay.
So all of the go-between. So that was kind of nice having the community magazines. When he brought on Real Producers, we already had some of that infrastructure set up. Mm-hmm. It just kind of scaled their role, which thankfully they could scale. But writers, ad managers. Jenny is kind of an admin assistant. She helps with a lot of different things. But yeah, we couldn't do it without them either.
For sure.
It's a team effort.
Right.
You know, we wouldn't be sitting here if we didn't have good people helping us. You know, we'd be pulling our hair out, getting ready for our deadlines tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
So
I know. I just got Carl just hit me up too. So I figured it was
Your team's hitting us up
close.
while we're here.
I know.
Yeah.
No, and the reason why I ask is it's you made the comment around you know, in essence, like your kids, you're the only one that's really going to care about the business as much as anybody else. I mean, you're going to care for it more than anybody else. And it took me about a year and a half to really grasp that. Because, you know, you start something, you have a vision, and we have amazing employees. And we made that transition. We used to have a lot of W-9 or whatever independent contractors supporting us. Then we said, all right, we got to gain control because there's limitations, right, around how you can manage, you know, an independent contractor versus an employee. So we shifted fully into an employee status. Was about, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And it was a good move on our end. I think it cost It cost us a lot more money to do that because there's all the tax implication, everything goes along with that. At the same time, within that first year and on, I realized like the only people that are really going to care for this baby as much is going to be Lisa and I, and I have to be okay with that in the sense with my employees or our employees that I can't expect that from them, you know. And it took a while to get mentally there. And I think the way now leading and managing also shifted into a better and more healthier place as well, because now the expectation is, you know, they don't have the same equity in the company, so why would they care as much? And we actually have amazing employees that we would look at them today and be like, you actually do care as much as we do, which is crazy to us.
Great.
It's all, you can't find that.
Yeah.
And so we're blessed to have some really, really great people on our team. So
yeah.
Was that year and a half like kind of learning who we're good employees and kind of a vetting process?
Yeah, there's 14 on our team today. We have a couple that are independent contractors, and then everybody else is an employee. It was hard to find, but in 3 years, I mean, we've probably had come and go. I don't know. It's been a few.
It's been a few. It's the hardest thing, I think, in running a business is really the management and the leadership or leading in the culture.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing. Selling the business is easy, at least in my opinion. Selling a product, but then when you have to back end it with people and having them, you know, be the ones to deliver, man, that is the hardest part.
It's a lot of trust.
It is. It is a lot of
you
trust.
You have to let go and trust somebody else.
We're talking about that.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because it's your baby.
To do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like dropping your kid off at daycare and then leaving for the first time. It's like.
So where do you, what's the challenges? Are you challenged, or are you challenged with the control aspects of running the business? What does that look like today?
The control aspects, I would say, I probably tend to be the more on the control side. Like, I've been doing it my way.
I'm trying to slink out of
You guys are going to go get a drink after this?
Yeah, we'll let these two just hang out and be in control. We'll let them be in control.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we do. No, I think it's just having the background before he came into the company. I already had created processes that worked for me. I'd already, hired some people and kind of figured out my way. And so him coming in and us figuring out our roles and how they play off of each other and where we fit in, and to where we're not driving each other crazy, but to where we're also efficient and working well together is probably it's just an interesting dynamic. But I tend to be more type A, more focused, more in my zone, and he tends to be the more level-headed maybe, or I don't know, he'll always throw in a funny comment or make me laugh or, lighten the mood. And so we balance each other really well, but we are still figuring out like how our roles play off of each other and our strengths and weaknesses.
So remind me again, how long has it been that you guys have actually been combined? Has it been a few months?
I would say, really heavily combined the way we are now. Probably since
3 months.
Yeah.
What do you? So 3 months probably feels like a lifetime at this point for you too. Believe me, because we went through
I remember.
that.
I remember
We actually remember 3 months, and
we
that
were
was
telling this story, and it was like almost at the 3 month mark, and we were just talking about this. But we went out to dinner, and we were like, we're not talking about Moncord, and we literally sat there silent. It was like 45 minutes, and we kind of like, we'd look at each other and then we'd sort of look away because it had so consumed us that we sort of got away from everything else that we had built as a married couple. Like it started to become the only thing, and it was a really good reset for us because it was kind of that point of like, okay, there's a line. We need to draw a line of like, of course it's going to blend. Like you have no choice but for it to blend. But we definitely now, there are times like Saturdays are non-work days. And we are really, really clear on that. Like we do not open computers. We don't talk about work. And it we'll start to, because I'll be like, oh, do you remember? And I'm like, wait, no, don't do it. But we very much, it gave us that reset and I think had we not done that, we'd be in a different place, or we wouldn't be here today as a married couple had we not done that.
We early on, we made the commitment that if the business was going to encroach on, the marriage in the sense of putting it at risk, like we have to be okay folding the business. Now, with that said, we've come a couple times where we're like, all right, is it worth it? And that question comes up a lot, like, is it worth it still? And then we get a win, or we push through a challenge and we're like, okay, it is. Yeah. And then you see the upside. But I feel like that's always going to be there somewhere lingering, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And what we've kind of defined as the breaking point is if it's to the point where it's going to destroy the marriage, then we have to fold it. The hard part about that is, to your point, it's like a baby or like a kid now, and you're like, crap, I have to just freaking
you throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I have to freaking take this kid out back and put a hole in his head and then call it good. Like, I can't do that. Like, how do we do that? Like, we're neck deep now.
Right.
And that I think recently, probably last 5 months, we had that. I think I did, and we had a conversation around that. We're like, wow, we just hit a point where it's that even that decision is hard. Yeah. Like, because it's going to keep growing and growing. And then you're like, man, because we have people's lives that we're accountable for, our employees, they're counting on us. Yeah. We have clients that we've promised a service to. Like, there's so much more now at stake than just, of course, at the end of the day, our marriage is going to be the end all, but it became real. Like, it's not just like Alex or Lisa, it's Alex, Lisa, employees, clients, partners, everybody else involved, and it's like, whoa, this thing is big now.
It's a web.
Yeah, it's a web.
Yeah. But so, what do you think so far have been the biggest challenges? I'll say challenges because I know there's more than one. But it's separately. You don't get to answer this one together.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, thanks.
I almost want to kick you out of the room so we can talk.
I think there'll be a lot of parallels on this one.
Yeah. Well, in marriage in general, I think that we take things as they come, and every challenge you run into, it's either going to break you or you grow from it. So I think it's having the perspective that we're a team and that we have each other's backs in the long run is part of it. But challenges, I would say for me is I'm in a leadership role in the company, so I've got a team to also take care of. Anybody that owns a magazine in a few states reports or goes to me for help, kind of like a coach. And so him coming on board, it was like having a team member live with me, you know, like 8 o'clock at night, something. But it was also what's made some of this new magazine work is I've gotten a perspective of what it's like taking over a magazine and how hard it really is to jump in the middle of something that's already running, keep it going and grow it while also connecting with the businesses and doing a good job. And so I've gotten to have a really insider's perspective, which has helped me actually, I think, get better in my role observing him. But that was challenging. You know, you come home from work, you want to have a glass of wine, maybe have dinner, and now your husband needs help with checking a photo or uploading, because he came in a kind of an unconventional way. He didn't necessarily have all that back training. We were kind of shotgunned into it. So I'd say that was probably my biggest challenge, was just adjusting to it being always there, where there would need to be help. And I was there to help him, so I was the natural person to go to, but never having it shut off. Yeah. And he probably will say that the snappiness was the flip side.
It's like, oh, she's a boss now. And like, we're not married right now. She's my boss. No, I think, you know, we hit on it before, right? Like, you can't really prepare for it until you're going through it. And so we try to have the right systems in place and talk about boundaries and shutting the computer, you know, at a certain time at night, or not talking, you know, however that looks. But at the same time, we're so, you know, for me and where I am for real producers is, you know, I really want to, you know, of course I want to do a really good job and I want to do it quickly. And so it's really easy to get like that tunnel vision and go, well, this will get better, you know, in a couple months and look forward. But then if you don't, you know, if you don't make a cognitive change, then nothing is actually, you know, and then you just, right. Like you said, it does feel like a whirlwind. Because, you know, and then we got an offer accepted on a house last week, and we're putting our house on the market, and
throw
then
that in the mix.
Yeah, just you know, and just you can't really plan for that timing, and then, you know, we're like we said, I'm going out of town on Friday, and we're back for a week, and then and it's like trying to do everything really well probably is not attainable. Yeah. So trying to make a very intentional decision on, you know, what do we say no to, you know, for a networking event, or, you know, what do we, you know, for the weekend, like, let's just have a day of, you know, not, you know, opening the computer and looking at your pub and going through revisions. But it's hard because there's that part of you that's driven and want to be, you know, you have to be good at what you do. And so I think that balance of all, you know, kids and the magazine and a marriage is by no means easy, but again, we do a good job of kind of balancing each other out in general, but this has definitely been, you know, a new experience for us and challenges, but I try and always keep things light as much as I can, and even probably when she's most frustrated, you know, and in the moment she's like, she might get a little more mad, but then eventually she'll come around and realize that it's gonna be okay.
He's really good at getting me to laugh at myself.
Yeah.
I'll be all mad.
He'll be like, put a mirror in front of you.
Or frustrated.
Yourself, and you're like, oh, let me, now that mad face, you're like,
he can break it down pretty quick.
Not do that.
Yeah.
See, I'm stubborn. I stay
She's
mad.
stubborn too.
I'm like, you won't break
like,
me. And the more you try to break me, the worse I'm going to get.
I'm like, look at yourself right now. Take a look at yourself. Look what you look like. And she's like, all right. She, you know, it's very, everything, there's a lot of parallels between the four of us.
Yeah.
And I see the same challenges because Lisa's of the same type. I know when she's heads down, like don't bother her at all.
Be one hell of a day
and
night
I want
for
to,
us.
yeah. I'm like,
Seriously.
and I want to share like an idea. I'm like, hey, you know, and I'm like, I look over and I see her, you know, and I'm like, all right, let me just keep moving.
I'll just table that one.
Yeah, maybe I'll just forget
So
this.
I'm curious,
Share
are
some-
one of you like a morning person and one of you a night person?
Oh, that is a great question.
Because I'm a morning person, like I'm usually up at 5. I love my quiet time. But then around 8 o'clock at night, I don't want to talk about work anymore. And that's when he's most energized. And that's when he starts to get all of his ideas. And there are times I want to just like punch him in the face because it's like 8:30 and he's like, hey, what about this idea? And I was like, it's not work time. But like we're very opposite I'm more energized in the morning. And at night is sort of when I sort of decompress. And that's when his brain starts just firing off all these amazing ideas.
You go ahead and answer that one.
There's a mind
She
for
is
you to
not.
walk
She is
on.
not a morning
I'm
person
not a
by
morning
any
person.
means, and so through the whole time.
He has learned to be a morning person.
Yeah,
because I am not.
She just, like we're all built differently,
Yeah.
and we've tried different, methods of, like, well, let's try this.
And I just keep sleeping.
Yeah, she likes to sleep. So, I talked about it, in our notes that, like, rather than trying to fight these weaknesses and retrain, I think we look at it that we just embrace each other's strengths, and I just will take care of the morning. And
Morning is not my strength.
but I don't think at nighttime. I think we do both kind of still fire at night, but that's the hard part, because then if we're both doing that, then it's like then the kids are getting left out of the equation, and I'm like, I have to get this done, but I know that she's like, well, I have to get this done too, and we really haven't had that until these last 3 months, and so And
How are the kids taking it? Like, how do you think they're?
The toughest wild card is that this all happened right before summer.
Okay.
So, May 25th is when it officially was transferred to him. We were already used to doing the 2 community magazines. But, if I had a lot to do that night, he'd take the kids to go get ice cream or, go to the park or something. And I could bust it all out, get it done, and then we could do something together. Now, with May 25th, it all kind of, he was trying to get caught up on everything. I was still trying to run things. We had 1 staff member change, which also threw us for a little bit of a loop. And then you add summer, maybe 2.5 weeks after all this happened. Now the kids are no longer in school. We were scrambling to find camps for our 6-year-old just to make sure she was kept busy. We should have done it earlier anyways.
But we had never encountered this, right? Like normally I can, let's go to the zoo, let's go to the park, and now we're like, what are we going to do with the little one when now that both of us have meetings?
We both have meetings.
And we totally got caught off guard. Like, we went into our why, and only because I have, like, a good relationship with the director were we able to get in some of the camps. But we were definitely in scramble mode because this was a new thing for us. And the other wild card is, like, having a puppy that, can only go so long without creating havoc.
So let me ask, is there ever a time, do you regret, like, man, was this a good idea?
I don't at all, because we see the potential, and then going back to, the original, when she was approached about joining the company, and we kind of saw the model, and she had never done sales, and I kind of was like all in, and because I believed in her.
He was super supportive on just some whim and intuition of this being the right direction.
Yeah.
And if he hadn't been, I wouldn't have been able to do it alone.
Do you think the kids regret it?
No. I don't think so either. I
We
I
got
think
to go to Mexico last year.
Yeah, they did.
Remind them of
That's
that.
what they care about.
You know how we went to Mexico, right?
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
all that
Yeah.
work we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they do. I think I don't know. Sometimes I'll run a mom's thing at our conferences, mom guilt. And one of the things I'm usually saying to the moms is, you're teaching your kid work ethic. You're teaching your kid, skills. Now, creating a balance for them to see that you're not always working is important. But I think them seeing us work is just training them for when they're older that this is being responsible. This is part of life.
Yeah.
I mean, this is our first quarter even working together like this, but once school starts, we'll have a much even better balance because we'll both get most of our work done during the school day and take turns on who picks them up. And next summer, we'll be prepared for what we need and kind of what we went through this summer to plan ahead a little bit better.
Yeah.
So I think you always have to learn from your prior mistakes or experiences, and I don't think we would change what we've done. I think we would just learn how we could do it better the next year.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's a good point. I mean, I think, there's gonna be phases, and then you'll walk into those phases because I think we keep thinking it's gonna get easier.
It doesn't. But
It's a funny thing.
Great
and I'm
joke.
speechless.
It's a funny joke.
It's
that,
always that. Well, when
it's
this
gonna get better.
happens,
It's gonna
it will
easier.
get easier. When
Yeah.
this happens, but then it's and yes, what we're facing today gets easier when that happens.
Yeah.
But then this opens that we didn't prepare for.
Well,
and
it's like
so,
you ever run marathons, half marathon? Ever done that? Okay.
I have.
Yeah. So
she's like,
she's a
no.
runner.
Yeah.
If you've ran a mile, right, and then you go to 3 to 5, whatever it is.
No, I'm kidding.
I feel that that's how business is in the sense of a mile was hard a long time ago. And you're like, okay, I got to run now a marathon. But then you got to go to first, you got to get to 5K. Then you got to get, but those are hard. Like when you first ran a mile, then do 3, then do 6. I feel like it's very similar in the sense of you're like, well, next time I will buy better shoes, I will stretch more, and then you do that, and then you're on mile 10, and you're like, this is hard, even with all that prep.
Yeah.
it's called growth.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
that's
sure,
100%.
Yeah, it's growth.
and I think in order to grow, you have to stretch beyond
Yeah.
what is comfortable,
Yeah.
and usually you want to quit.
Yeah.
I mean, I've ran 2 marathons. And both times, right around mile 18, I was like, what did I say? I paid for this.
Yeah, you pay for this pain.
Why did I pay for this? But now, I mean, because I've ran those 2, now, I mean, I've conned him into doing a couple half
Yeah,
marathons.
I wasn't a runner either until
But,
she
well, and
got
I
me.
don't
Country
think either
music.
of us are.
No, I'm an avid country music fan.
Brainwashed.
Never listen to and then marathon runner
Yeah.
and I'm in my life I hate running, but she
But
makes me
once you stretch to that point, I mean, we just signed up for the 12Ks of Christmas, and I leaned over, I was like, hey, I just got a promo code, should we do this? And he's like, yeah, why not? Whereas a few years ago, and it's 6.2 miles, that would have been horrible, but now he's ran a couple half marathons, so it's like, what's 6 miles?
Yeah.
So anytime, and I think we've seen this with our business, and we've seen it with our marriage too, is we've stretched to a point where it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And people are either fight or flight. I think you're a fighter and I'm a flighter. Like I very much like when things get hard, I shut down and want to run away. But I haven't done it through all of this. And I look back and I'm like, gosh, the stuff that was hard 3 years ago now is easy.
Yeah.
So that's what encourages me to keep going personally, is that I know that what we're going through right now is hard, but I also know that in 2 years this is going to seem easy.
Right. Yeah.
So
There was a point when we were doing, transaction count, where, it was, let's say 40 transactions. It was hard for a coordinator.
is
Or at
really
least I was doing
funny
20.
right
How many are you doing now?
It's
I personally
obscene.
right now
It's
am
obscene.
managing about 180, which is too much, but it's because of circumstances that
Yeah.
have happened, which is why. But I've learned I can do that.
Yeah,
And-
where like a year ago, that number would have been seen as like
It's not possible.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
Actually, it's time to fire clients
Right.
because we can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
But you kind of, as you're probably seeing too, you step up to the challenge.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of running a business, is that we get to experience challenges and then actually test our limits of what we're actually capable of. And either I think we're continually surprising ourselves, like, whoa, that's pretty.
It's
pretty
usually
cool
a
that we
surprise
can,
in retrospect, though. It's
Yeah.
not
Oh,
a
yeah.
surprise in
At
the moment.
Never. Yeah.
Never.
At the moment,
Yeah,
it's like, oh, this is horrible. But then in retrospect, you're like, wow,
That's true.
we did that.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
Kind of to wrap up here, and I want to ask a question around so you're 3 months in, a quarter in.
Mm-hmm.
What would be advice for somebody that's looking to start a business as a married couple, or maybe a brother, sister, whatever it is, family member? What are the lessons learned from the get-go that you could say, hey, these are things that I would advise somebody coming into thinking about starting a business, and then wrap with what does the future look like for the both of you going into, like, what are the plans for your business as you guys kind of keep growing it out?
Okay.
I think
2-part question.
Yeah, I think the first thing would be having an intentional discussion about what the roles are going to look like.
Yeah.
Because if you just go into it and just say, we're just going to figure, we'll just do this on the run, there is an element of that. But if you have absolutely no clarity about what roles are going to be taken and what strengths, are going to be embraced and what weaknesses can we, try and keep out of the forefront kind of thing, you're going to have a better chance early on than just shooting from the hip and just thinking that stuff will work out. With us, we've been lucky enough to where the risks that we've taken, have worked out, but it comes with a lot of hard work and the kind of the pain of those hard moments. And is it worth it? I mean, it's funny, the more we talk, I'm like, if you don't have those moments, you're probably not getting to where you want to be, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because if those moments, first of all, if you're doing it right, it's not going to be easy, right?
Yeah.
Like the joke about it when is it going to get easier?
Yeah.
Like, when you retire,
Yeah.
or, however you want to look at it,
Yeah.
when the kids take over the business or whatever that may be. But if those growth moments, if those aren't, if you're not experiencing those, then something is probably amiss.
Yeah.
Setting expectations when choosing your roles, I mean, just like he was saying, is having an identified role that plays into your strengths and weaknesses and just knowing who's carrying out what. So communication and setting expectations early on, like almost writing up job descriptions, so it's really clear. Otherwise, you're just going to constantly be crossing over in each other's businesses or kind of in what each other's trying to do, and it gets confusing you're both doing the same thing, and now your client's confused because you're not communicating.
Right.
So if you have clear roles and figure that out ahead of time, the whole process will be smoother.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's good advice.
There's going to be arguments or difference of opinion. If you have to be able to come back to the same page sooner than later. Like every couple is different. For us, we always go to bed at the same time.
Yeah.
And I would say 1 in 300 nights have we gone to bed like mad at each other.
Yeah.
Like one of us will either gives in or like, hey, let's just have a rational conversation. Because if you hold on, the way I look at it is if you hold on to that anger, it is going to leak into what she's talking about. And you go do a sales meeting and you're angry, then everything's clouded. When you're interacting with your kids, and they're asking for something that might be so normal, but you've got this stuff pent up inside of you, then maybe you snap at them when 9 out of 10 times you wouldn't.
You wouldn't have done it.
And so, again, that might just be a personality thing, but I think being able to, at the end of the day, kind of let go, you have a better chance of being, successful on kind of all planes.
Yeah.
And then I think what you guys talked about already is like, having a time when you can not talk about work, like, set date nights, do stuff with your kids, and like, we're not gonna, look at our phones, and we're gonna just enjoy each other, because we do want to set good work, show good work ethic, and there are, rewards in that, taking the kid to Mexico and Disneyland and Seabrook and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It comes from the hard work. And so I make a point to like bring that up. Like, we get to do this because,
Yeah.
in the past it was, because mom's been, busting her hump kind of thing, and now I can like throw myself in there.
That's awesome. That's cool.
But I want them to appreciate the fact that, like, because, for me growing up, I went to a kind of a more elite high school, and my mom, early on was like, hey, when it's spring break, like, you're not going to get to go on those trips that your friends are. And it's really cool for us as parents to, like, we get to take our kids on those trips, but it's because of the risks we took and the hard work that we put in, and that is a big reward. But if it's 90% work and 10% marriage and kids, then something will go wrong, right? Yeah. So it is setting those boundaries of where the line is, and let's make sure that we are on both sides of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now it's time for our Optimizer segment where we share some tips and tricks. I don't know about tricks, but how do you optimize? Let me go back. Welcome to our Optimizer segment where we share some tips. How do we optimize your time, or get some ideas around optimizing your time so you can better run your business, better get a hold of your your family work-life balance. So with that said, I'm going to pass it off to our wonderful guest. Lindsay is with us today. Share with us, give us an optimizing tip around business or family. How do you optimize your time?
Well, for one, I believe that you are either growing your business or your business is dying. So it's either one or the other if you're not out there doing something for it. So I try to make sure I focus my priority time on income producing activity out there, gathering leads, meeting new people, networking, out on meetings, all these different things, and trying to make sure I'm delegating some of the tasks that are more the busy work. And one other thing I'm always trying to do is be a student of my business and continually learn and grow and get better. Even though I've been doing it for 6 years in my company, that's half the time they've been around, so I'm considered a veteran at this point. So it would be easy for me to check out and stop learning and just coach people. But you learn a lot from the people around you in your industry. So I think absorb like a sponge what the others that are doing, what you strive to be doing, try to learn their craft and what they do as well.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Lindsay.
I was going to answer your question about long-term
yeah, please.
goal. Right, the points and Muckelty are both in pretty good spots right now, so we're trying to basically kind of maintain them, grow them some, but the real focus is helping support him and growing real producers, getting it to a healthier level. And I think in the long run, we'd really like to diversify some other things that we do. We've talked about landlording, renting, owning some other properties and renting them out, or different... we even sometimes talk about different businesses or opportunities through friends that, we know what they're doing. But right now all of our eggs are in the one basket of franchise ownership under the same company. And it's a great company. We love it. But we do recognize that, as we're building our income, we should be kind of spreading that out and investing in some other things. So we're going to start probably doing that in the next couple of years, or maybe sooner than later. We'll see. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having. It was really insightful, and appreciate the conversation. And now it's Lisa's turn because she put me on first. Lisa, you're signing us out.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We were so happy to have you here, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Co-Founder Friday.